Okay, now the way those people operate is they look for what patterns of belief form groups that they can infiltrate and then capitalize on. And that happens on the right. We did a report, the same group, on the use of Christ as king as a manipulative strategy by bad actors, hypothetically on the right. And this report identified the same sort of people on the left.
So Jordan Peterson was on the Joe Rogan platform a couple of days ago, and also he was on Fox News. And he came out to say that the use of Christ as king is a manipulative tactic by some people on the right, which a lot of people assume that he was talking about the likes of Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, right? According to him, these are psychopaths on the internet. These are people that are feeding into the conspiracy theories and also playing the game of anti-Semitism, right? Which a lot of people kind of took offense to what he was saying, because he came across as if he was trying to gatekeep information, telling people not to research for themselves and believe whatever the mainstream media is trying to tell them, right? And if you notice, for the last couple of months or maybe a year or so, a lot of people have been saying that Jordan Peterson have changed from what he was. Now, I've never really been into him, so I can't really comment on that, on what he was like and what he is right now, right? But all I can say is, let's check out his interview on the Joe Rogan platform, on Fox News, and then the response from both Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes to him. Let's check it out.
To rely on, like, how do you keep the bloody psychopaths at bay?
Right.
You know, and the conspiracy theorist mongers and the people who aren't trying to discover the truth, but who are using the conspiratorial edge, let's say.
The grifters.
The groypers, for that matter, right? These are people.
The groypers is Nick Fuentes' group. And these are people, they are on the internet, mostly young people, right? And if you know anything about Nick Fuentes, he's been going hard in the paint for so many years. He's been calling out the Jews. He's been calling out Israel. He's been calling out the Zionists. He's been canceled. He's one of the people that I know that have been canceled so much. And the fact that he's still around, I mean, credit to him, you know. But these are the people that obviously he's calling out right now.
People who are clearly playing power games for their own benefit, and they're spinning up these conspiratorial narratives and riding on them and occupying them in this parasitical manner. This is a huge problem already on the right-wing side.
In my opinion, in 2025, if you don't question things yourself, you are part of the problem. Because the way human beings are, or rather most human beings are, once you've been lied to and you find out that you've been lied to, whether it be in your friendship groups, your relationship, at your workplace, you wouldn't believe what the person is telling you no more. And that's the way a lot of people feel when it comes to the mainstream media narratives. Because now social media has come out. People can now research things for themselves. People are seeing that we have been fed lies for decades. You know, a lot of people always want to blame the problem, but we do not like blaming the source of the problem. So to blame the conspiracy theorists, to blame the people that are asking questions, to blame the people that are doing the research for themselves is not the right way to go about it. We have to look at the mainstream media. How did we get to the point where we are today? That is the right question to ask. Unless if you're trying to hide something, unless if you're trying to protect power, which I believe when I'm listening to Jordan Peterson, he comes across as someone who is playing the game of protecting power for the people that are in the powerful positions.
Well, I think the most important thing to do first is to draw a distinction between the political and the psychological and not to collapse them together. So imagine this. Imagine that there's a group of individuals, about 4% of the population, who have a set of personality characteristics that have been described as dark tetrad. So they're Machiavellian. They use their language to manipulate. They're narcissistic. They want unearned social status and reputation. They're psychopathic, which makes them free of empathy and parasitical and predatory.
when Jordan Peterson uses all these large words, all these big words and everything, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I look at him sideways because I know people like him throw these words around to kind of throw you off, right? To kind of come across as they are so smart and they are genius and everything. And I see a lot of people call him a genius. He's this, he's changed lives and everything. I'm not gonna lie, I've never really been into Jordan Peterson. Never been into him. Never took interest in anything he had to say. I'm that way anyways. When it comes to people, whether it be Andrew Tate and his brother, Nick Fuentes, I look at all those people as performers. They are in this to make money. They are making money. None of these people are doing this just out of the charity of their heart because they care about humanity. No, they go where the wind leads them. Now, some of them do have a higher moral compass than some. That's true. You can actually have both. You can have a good moral compass and still be for your money. And when I look at people like Jordan Peterson, to me, they are just performers. So when he throws all these big words around and everything, I'm like, all right, let's get to the point.
And they're sadistic. So they take positive delight in the unnecessary suffering of others. Now, those people also use false cries of victimization, let's say, to manipulate, and they're entitled. They seek vengeance when it's unwarranted, and they protest loudly and make very public cries for reparations that would be self-serving. Okay, now the way those people operate is they look for what patterns of belief form groups that they can infiltrate and then capitalize on. And that happens on the right. We did a report, the same group, on the use of Christ as king as a manipulative strategy.
So he's talking about Candace Owens right now because she's the one that really started or rather popularized the use of Christ as king. So he's taking a shot at Candace Owens right now.
By bad actors, hypothetically on the right, and this report identified the same sort of people on the left. But it's not primarily political. They're wolves in sheep's clothing who look for...
The funny thing about this is him and Candace Owens used to work for the Daily Wire. He worked for the Daily Wire. Candace Owens used to be like a hardcore Christian Zionist. Everybody loved her. When she was going at when she was going at BLM, everybody loved her. People like him loved her. People like Ben Shapiro loved her. They championed her. They actually championed her. Now, because she's calling out what's happening in Gaza, which everybody can look at that, and if you have a moral compass at least, you can look at that and be like, that's bad. Now, people like him are trying to demonize her, going on big platforms, trying to demonize her. I think that's wrong.
Where there's power and value, and then adopt those beliefs as a surface camouflage so that they can elevate their moral status. Now, and this has become worse in recent years as far as I'm concerned, because the evolved strategies that we have for dealing with these psychopathic types, psychopathic narcissistic types, don't work well online. And so the psychopaths can get away with their terrible manipulations online, and they can find like-minded people, and they can escape from any reputational consequences. And so there's always been psychopaths. Those are the Pharisees, for example, that Christ points to, the religious pretenders. Those are the people who use God's name in vain and claim moral virtue and even religious devotion. Well, all they're doing is feathering their own nests and furthering their own narrow interests. And the web, social media, anonymity enables them to organize and also hides them much more effectively. And this is a problem in religious organizations. It's a problem in political organizations, and it pathologizes the whole culture. You know, most people, 80% of Americans agree on virtually everything. And then there's these fringe people, and they're not political. They're psychopathological narcissists who cloak themselves in political guise. And we all have to learn to distinguish between the political and the psychological. We're not good at it.
So, yeah, so this is Jordan Peterson on Fox News, going hard in the paint, calling out Candace Owens, calling out people that have questions. Apparently, it is wrong to have questions today, or even to have an opinion when it comes to what Israel is doing, because that's where all this stems from. That's where all this stems from. Candace's problems with his people started when she called out the genocide in Gaza, and all of them turned on her. So Nick Fuentes has now come out to respond to Jordan Peterson, and he called him out to debate because apparently he's been calling them out. Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, all these guys in Daily Wire. He has called them out so many times, but for some weird reason, every single one of them have been avoiding him. Right? So he has now come out to respond to Jordan Peterson. Let's hear what he has to say.
And then one day, for no reason at all, everyone got mad at Israel. And I almost wondered, did they hear themselves? Like Jordan Peterson, hey, man, get a grip. I don't know. And the puzzle to me is Peterson's obviously a very intelligent guy. He's obviously somebody who was very influential and important to the development of a lot of young men from my generation. Many close friends of mine were huge Jordan Peterson fans.
I hear a lot of people say this. Where was I when Jordan Peterson was doing all this? Because I was never really into the guy. So when I hear people say that he was so influential in changing people's lives and everything, I scratch my head and be like, all right, cool. I must not be on the internet then. Because I was on the internet and I was never really into him like that. I saw him. I saw some of his thoughts, but I never really took him serious.
Because of his Bible lecture series, because of the work he was doing 10 years ago. How does a person who's intelligent and at one point had a lot of credibility, how is he now saying things that make no sense like this? I wonder, is it the drugs? Is it mental illness? And I'm not saying that to be like a jerk, but he's had a struggle with mental illness and he's crying all the time. Like, this is not a stable person. Is it he's being paid off? I just don't.
He goes on the Piers Morgan podcast and everything, and in the middle of conversation, he start crying. I'm like looking at him like, bruh, conversation is not even that deep. But literally, you're watching him. He's good now. 2 seconds later, he starts weeping. So when I looked at him, I'm like thinking, there is definitely something wrong with this dude.
Don't know. But the bigger puzzle is I don't know how anybody is still listening to that side of the story. And this is how you know who's right and who's wrong, who's confident in their position. I have said, I've been doing this for 8 years now. Every year for 8 years, I have said, give me Charlie Kirk, give me Ben Shapiro, give me Jordan Peterson. As a matter of fact, I'll settle for the next best thing. Give me Benny Johnson, give me Andrew Klavan, give me their second in command, give me their third in command.
Does anyone know why these people don't want to debate him? And I understand, right, that a lot of people don't like Nick Fuentes, right? Sometimes some of the things that he says, I'm like thinking, like, dude, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? But sometimes he does be making sense as well. But my thing is, if we are out here saying that someone, is not credible, and you're the credible one, and this goes for both sides, why don't you sit down and have a debate? Show the world why Nick Fuentes is not credible. Shut him up in front of the world. When you do that, then everyone will be like, you know what? You can't take this guy serious. But you can't hide in your chamber. You can't hide in your cocoon and say he's not credible. Call him a psychopath. Call him all sorts of names and that. You know what I mean? And it's so easy to say, oh, no, I'm not going to speak to him because he's an anti-Semitic. I believe that that's a cop-out. Because we talk to everybody else, though. So why can't we talk to him? And debate him.
If I'm a troll demon who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I'm fundamentally dishonest, I'm a sociopath, I have all this stuff to hide, I'm only telling half-truths. If that's the case, why not have a discussion?
Shut him up.
I mean, for the longest time, because they say, they name me. For a long time, they didn't. Now they say me by name. They talk about my group. They say it's Fuentes, it's the Groypers. It's, Peterson said in the clip, it is a huge problem. It's growing. So if this is a big problem, if it's a big enough problem, you name me, you're talking about it, it has urgency, it's severe. Wouldn't embarrassing me, defeating me, showing that there's a solid other side of the argument, wouldn't that curtail the problem?
Yep.
If I go in a debate against Peterson and I just get routed, doesn't that destroy the luster? Doesn't that destroy the mythology of the movement? This idea, no one will debate him because he's right. No one will talk to him because they're afraid of him. Wouldn't that at the minimum shatter the allure?
Yep.
And if there was a compelling argument, wouldn't that convert many of the people?
Yep.
But they won't do it.
Because they're scared.
And they won't even make the counter argument on their own platform. They just allude to the fact, they say, oh, he knows what he's doing. He's a sociopath. He's this evil person, blah, blah, blah. Where's the counter arguments? You won't make the counter argument here. You won't make it there. You won't make it when I'm in the room. You won't make it when I'm not in the room. And this is just the bankruptcy of that other side. All that it took was for someone to stand up and say, Israel's not our closest ally.
That's where this all
started.
started.
And they banned me, and they canceled me, and they silenced me, and they took my money, and they did all these things to me. But somebody kept saying, Israel's not our closest ally. And literally just tugging at that thread, there was just never another side. Enough people started saying, yeah, why is Israel our closest ally? And they literally just have no answer to that question. You can take that question to the ends of the earth. You won't find an answer to it. That's what happened to me. That's how I got red pilled. I said, show me the evidence that there isn't this Jewish conspiracy. I'm waiting for someone to debunk it because there's all this evidence. There's all these things that I found. I'm waiting for someone to show me, why it's all completely nonsensical. And I just never found it. And I never found it because it doesn't exist. And that's why they can't articulate it. That's why it's just pointing and sputtering. They're dark. They're evil. They're malevolent. They haven't been to Auschwitz. Who takes this stuff seriously anymore? It's time to hang it up, man. It's time to just be done. Debate me or shut up. Keep my name out of your mouth. Stop talking about groypers and troll demons. If you cannot confront them, then stop talking about it. I said it about Clavin, Trent Horn. I mean, all these people. Daryl Cooper wrote his own piece about anti-Semites. It really does amaze me. And they come up with these excuses. They're like, well, he'll just get a big platform. They say, well, he's a jerk. Well, he's a troll. Well, he lied about me once. Well, he did this, he did that. They debate the left, and it's a no holds barred yelling. They debate socialists, communists, Muslims. They debate people. It's a screaming match. It gets personal. But I'm, beyond the pale. And they know because I get in front of a mainstream audience and I'm going to fucking destroy. I mean, let's just be honest about it. They may hate me. They all recognize my ability. They all know that you put me in front of a massive audience, I am going to win everybody over.
I'm not going to lie. He has a point there. I'm not the biggest Nick Fuentes' fan. Some of the things that he says, I don't agree with. Some of the things that he says, I agree with. But I know for a fact he's a very smart dude. And I've seen his debates in that. And I know that if you put him and any of these other dudes, even the fast talking guy, Ben Shapiro, they are going to get eaten alive. That's a whole fact. And that's me just being objective. Now let's see Candace Owens. So she's come out and obviously replied Jordan Peterson. Let's check it out.
And I do want to also say this because at root of this is his bizarre obsession with Nick Fuentes. There's others, they are in a bubble, and you just have to recognize that most people in the world don't know who Nick Fuentes is, but these people, the Seth Dillons, the Joel Berrys, they obsess over everything he does, and they believe everyone in the world is watching and doing whatever Nick Fuentes says, and he's gotten under their skin. That's the reality. These people are being broken by troll accounts, and they're now spending real money to try to control and censor our speech. And it's just not going to work, okay? You're not going to tell Christians how to behave. You're not a Christian. You're not going to tell, especially on this day, the Feast of St. George, who was martyred for refusing to back down on his faith. You're not going to tell Christians. That phase is over. Christians are going to start standing up for our faith. I'm going to be one of them. And to the extent that you have a problem with me declaring that Christ is king because he is and forever will be, then I am going to be a thorn in your side. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic.
How do you have a problem with Christ is king? You got to be a demon, literally, for that to bother you. You get what I'm saying? Because no one disturbs you for whatever you believe. You get what I'm saying? You believe what you believe. People like us, Christians, Candace Owens, we believe what we believe. We believe that Christ is king. You get what I'm saying? I don't understand why that is a problem. And Candace Owens, obviously, she's gone on X, and let's see what she said to Jordan Peterson. So she said, trying to make the public believe that anonymous frog accounts on X are akin to Jeffrey Dahmer is at best histrionic. Tons to critique about Nick Fuentes, but a psychopath, really? Say what you want about Nick, but he has established legitimate emotional power over neocons. I cannot make sense of their addiction to responding to him. They are now spending serious money to produce psychological reports to respond trolling. And of course, he will find it all hilarious. The troll will continue. To which Nick Fuentes replied and said, okay, Candace. And then she replied to him and said, these people have literally texted me asking me to denounce anonymous grepper accounts. These are grown adult men in their mid-40s who run businesses, and they are crying about anonymous comments as if they are the first people to come across mean words on X. Is weird. Listen, I don't know exactly what's going on, but I think everybody just needs to take a chill pill. There's clearly a war going on social media. You go, I mean, one side believe in what they believe, another side believe in what they believe. And it's so pathetic that all this started because some people decided to call out Israel. That's where all this started. Before the calling out Israel, nobody had a problem like this. When black people were being called out, no one had an issue. When woke people were being called out, nobody had an issue. But once the war in Gaza started and people saw what Israel was doing in Gaza and called it out, people started getting canceled and people started getting fired. I think it's wrong. And I think that Jordan Peterson is out of his mind. That's all I gotta say. It's your boy Toby. Subscribe to this channel, watch these videos, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video with your friends. Until next time, salute.